Hi, welcome to Route 66, day number 85. Grab your Bible. We're going to read one whole book of the Bible in one day. 4 chapters, the book of Ruth. You know, Judges was just this bizarre up and down. They called the cycle of the Judges. Everything was going good, then they sinned and they got themselves in trouble and they cried out to God. God raised up a deliverer. He delivered them. It just went around and around and around. Everybody did that was right in their own eyes, and people did some bizarre things. We ended up in Judges with some really strange things that went on. But there is a beautiful story in the book of Ruth. Ruth is 4 chapters of just this wonderful story. So, chapter 1, a woman named Naomi. There's a famine, so they go into another country. She loses her husband, her 2 sons while they were there in Moab, which is a foreign land, which they weren't really supposed to go to. Then her daughter-in-law, Ruth, after losing her husband, Naomi's son, she chooses to stay when Naomi decides to go back to Israel. And she says, your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. So they go back defeated. She lost 3 men in her life, and it's just Naomi and her daughter-in-law, Ruth, who the book's named after. And then in chapter 2, we find out that Ruth, who is now a widow, as well as Naomi, she goes to gather some grain in the field. It was called gleaning. When they would harvest, they weren't supposed to get all of it and allow people who were poor to be able to gather, and that's what Ruth was doing. She ends up in the field of Boaz, which was a kind and wealthy man who eventually took care of her and he provided for her. Boaz is impressed with Ruth's kindness and hard work. And then in chapter 3, Naomi finds out where she's been going. She says he is a near relative called a kinsman redeemer, and it's somebody who could marry her to keep the family name alive. And so Ruth follows her advice, and Boaz asks to take care of them all, and he does some good things for him. He agrees that he will marry her, but there's one person that's closer in line, related, and so they'll have to figure it out if he can redeem her, which means he buys her back. And then in chapter 4, Boaz handles everything. He does it properly, legally. He ends up marrying Ruth. They have a son named Obed, who becomes the grandfather of King David. Ruth is a foreigner, and she becomes part of the family line of Jesus. So it is just a great, great story. So here's some lessons. I'll just kind of name them off really quick. Chapter 1, loyalty and love, no matter what. Loyalty and love are important. Ruth chose to stick with Naomi. That verse, your people will be my people, use it a lot for marriage, but this isn't. This is about a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law. And God honors faith and loyalty and love. Chapter 2, God sees our actions and takes care of us. I love what it says. She happened to be in the field. No, God had it all planned out. God often uses other people, unbeknownst to us, to bless us when we need it at the right time. The 3rd chapter, sometimes we do need to step out in faith. That's what Ruth had to do. She went to him and she stepped out in faith and begged and asked him if he would protect her, and he decided that he would. Ruth showed courage and humility when she did that. And then in chapter 4, God can use anyone, no matter of their background. Ruth was not part of the chosen people, but God used her in a great way to be one of the ancestors of Jesus Christ. And so that's a great, great story. The story of Ruth shows us how God works through everyday people and situations. It's a story of love, loyalty, kindness, and how God can bring hope even in some really bad times. So maybe you've gone through some rough times like Naomi and Ruth, but you know what? God has a better future for you. So good reading today. Read the whole